Hey guys, this is Katie. I hope you enjoy my second ever video. I'm going to be talking to you about education in Canada and the Official Languages Act. The Official Languages Act was created in 1969 and it gave English and French equal status as languages in Canada. So what that means is that Canadians can have federal services in either English or French. It's only at a federal level, the government level, so each province does have its own regulations in regards to teaching English and French, but generally Canadians have to learn French at some point in their lifetime in the school system. So just a fun fact for you guys, our current Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, that the world seems to be in love with, his father was even more universally adored. He was the one who created that act, and during his era he was so popular, so many girls loved him and chased after him that they called it Trudeau Mania. So back in the 70s, after the act was created, it was generally received favorably. French became really important for getting a well-paying job in Canada. Many provinces became mandatory to learn French. French immersion schools became really popular, and bilingualism and national unity were promoted across the country. However, 1969 was nearly 50 years ago, so as someone who's been both a student in the Canadian education system and someone who's trying to become a teacher as well, I'll tell you a few things about how it's changed since then and what it's like now. So a French immersion school is a school in Canada that has lessons taught entirely in French. English is taught as the second language. Many parents believe that if they get their children into one of these schools early enough, that they'll get a leg up and have an advantage in society learning French from a young age. Unfortunately, there's more people that want to have their children attend these schools than there are spots in the schools, and they end up on a long waiting list or they end up not going at all. Oftentimes as well, the parents themselves are only monolingual and can't help the children with their homework if they do happen to have things in French. It's pretty difficult right now to get a job as a teacher in almost any subject, just because there's a lot of teachers who haven't yet retired, the baby boomers. But if you do speak French and have a teaching degree, you can get a job really quickly because of the demand for French education. However, as a former student of French, I can definitely attest to this, that most students just plain don't like learning French because they see it as an obligation and a language that they're never going to have to use. So most of the time, French teachers end up really disliked by their students and have a really hard time in their classes. So Canada has always been what they call a melting pot of cultures and very multicultural, but these days, as more and more immigrants move into Canada and have their own communities, languages such as Mandarin or Spanish are becoming way more popular, and French is sort of becoming obsolete. French as a whole isn't even one of the top 10 spoken languages in the world, while Canada has large Mandarin-speaking communities, Arabic-speaking communities, and Punjabi-speaking communities, which is becoming a language more people are demanding to be put into schools for their children to learn and get more opportunities in life. Also in Canada, all throughout public school, we are taught the Quebec style of French, but then if you go on to a Canadian university, you're suddenly taught the French style of French, which doesn't really sound like a big deal, but it can be really confusing for those who want to continue on in French. So I hope you guys enjoyed that short little video. I don't want to say that I'm opposed to learning French in schools, because as we are a bilingual country, I think it's really important that we promote the unity of our two big communities, especially Quebec and the rest of Canada, given the conflict we've had in the past, which I will not go into because it's a whole other conflict. However, because our classroom environments are always changing and our country as well, I do believe it's important to promote other languages in schools and think that students should be given the option to study a different language other than French. I definitely think that the history of French and English in Canada is really important, but in terms of students getting ahead and looking towards their future, more globally recognized languages and ones that are used more often would be more useful in the classroom, and to give students a choice to do that would be a good idea. I think from an education viewpoint, this not only removes that obligation that students feel in learning a language that may not be useful or interesting to them, and also would give them a choice to learn something that does interest them or would give them a leg up in their future goals, depending on what they may be. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you guys soon.